not, indict anybody, then as an office, we do not have the capacity to have another option. That is one. Two, we have provisions in the Constitution, including our own Political Parties Act, Section 13, that says anybody who has been disqualified by the Constitution and any other laws as per the practices of the Act stands disqualified. But we also have Article 25, which again speaks to how do we disqualify citizens from participating. So what I want to say is we comply to the laws that already exist in terms of who qualifies to be a leader of a party as per the stipulated regulations of the Political Parties Act and the provisions of the Constitution that we have. I think I have given justice to all the questions, unless there's one that has skipped my note probably. Thank you. Thank you.
I agree with justice to the questions. And if anyone is not satisfied, he'll be over lunch. He can be able to take another round. So another round of questions will be the last. I'll start with the Honorable Martin Peters, the Honorable McLeod. I'll come to Honorable Minority Whip, the Honorable Minority Whip and Minority Leader. And I think the last one would be, I can't see. That's member for Marakwet West. Okay, great. Let's go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is simple. We as membership of these parties, we don't approve their budgets. And you have just presented to us that 32 have got qualified audit queries, and others have got qualified. Now, you as the person who funds them, what parameters do you use to make sure that the money you give them are utilized accordingly, or you just rely on audit report? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable McLeod.
I have one question and one comment. Number one, how to ensure that political parties, when doing their primaries, will strictly comply by using their political parties register. Because in this country, most political parties, during the time of nomination, they use IEBC register rather than their own register for parties. Secondly, Chairman or Speaker, can we just tell us the truth? Because we have seen, Rianago, we have seen that one political vehicle dies before the next political vehicle. If you can see how political parties have been going on in this country of late, is that one regime starts with one party, and in their second term, they are in another party or another coalition. It means that there is no sanity, there is no dignity, there is no order of political parties that have an ideology in which citizens own and follow. What happens is that we follow our regional kingpins, we follow our leaders, wherever they go, even if they go today, we all go in that direction. It means we don't have a serious ideology on what we want as a country in a political party system, just like in America and other places.
Give the mic to your neighbor here. No, give the mic to Honorable Mwinyi. Give the mic to Honorable Mwinyi over there before you bring it up. The Honorable Mwinyi just next to Honorable McLeod. No, give it to the Honorable.
Let me ask you a simple question. What happens when a party is given the 6 months probation period and it expires?
What happens when a party is given the 6 month probation period and it expires? I hope you noted that down. Give it, the next person who was not supposed to be. The other side, Marakwet West. It's okay. I'll come like this.
Thank you for the eloquent presentation. One, CEO, what do you think should happen in terms of internal regulation of political parties? Because sometimes internal regulations compromise the credibility of elections. Do you think we should regulate through the law. Number two, in terms of the registration of political parties, what happens if a political party is deregistered, whereas it has members already elected to the National Assembly, the Senate, or the county assemblies? Finally, in terms of legal reforms, you've said that you are following up on legal reforms. Now, the current Political Parties Act, as constituted, only regulates political parties. Now, as a member elected as an independent member of parliament, I find that there are so many gaps. There is a lacuna in law in terms of regulation of independent candidates. Do you think it is time that the Political Parties Act is amended to include independent candidates or independent elected leaders?
Thank you. Honorable Batandi here. Then Honorable Mutunga, then finally Honorable Mbui.
Thank you. The law requires Parliament to allocate 0.3% of audited and approved revenues to political parties fund. This means for this financial year, we are supposed to allocate about 6.9 billion to political parties. We have not been able to do this since the fund was created. But departmental committees in charge of this fund have always disagreed with us. They have said, you do not need this amount of money. I wanted you to maybe tell members whether does political parties need this humongous amounts of money, 6.9 billion, in case of this financial year. And also, because some political parties have gone to court and they have secured orders compelling us to be able actually to allocate these funds in arrears. So this dilemma is with us. We want to know whether, do we need all this amount of money to go to political parties? Do you think this money is necessary? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mutunga.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I would like to ask John, do political parties are they living organs? What I mean by living organs is that at the point of registration, they should have at least 24,000 people, members. And then there is party hopping. I mean, there is changing through the app from one party to the other, which means the number of members keep changing. How do you verify whether they're qualifying 24, or is it mandatory that they should remain 24 and above? We need to know that. The other issue is that that's the reason why I'm calling it living. If they are living, they should have 24 plus always. The other issue is with the resource constraints, and then data being very useful and important in this case. How would you rate your credibility of your data? You've told us how resource constrained you are, and how does your data measure up with that of IEBC? How often do you two, as an institution, compare what you have? Because during nominations, IEBC data is used, and then we don't know whether these people really are part of they're also registered. The final thing I want to find out is when people do go for, when we look at the number of political parties we have, some of them are very old. Do you have information to verify these parties are still in keeping with the requirements?
Thank you. Honorable Mbui.
Yeah, thank you, party leader of MDG. Now, one of the perennial problems that we have in facing political parties is in the registration of members. Many times when you even attempt to register people, you find they've been registered in parties without their consent. How do you intend to deal with this problem once and for all? Because it's really a serious menace in this country. That's one. The second one, I want to refer you to the Constitution of Kenya 2010, Article 91, which deals with political parties, 91.2 on the basic requirements for political parties. And it indicates that a political party shall not be engaged in violence or intimidation of opponents. C, establish a militia or similar organizations. And D, engage in bribery. Now, these vices are very rampant. If you watch news, you see those happening almost every weekend. So what I'm asking is, what action do you intend to take against these parties that are notorious for this kind of problems? Is it possible for you to deregister them, including even if it is a ruling party? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think very interesting questions. Remember, just remind you as Mr. John comes over, that even as in Parliament, we have a special committee that audits the Auditor General's findings on political party funds. I don't know who chairs it. Special funds must be done by Honorable Fatuma. Yeah, she should be able to tell us also how the political parties are doing in terms of how they use their funds. Bwana Cox, kuja.
Thank you. Thank you again, honorable members and honorable speaker. Pick those questions that we have put across. I think some of them speak to things I already addressed earlier. And probably a few of them may be things that may need to speak to. Now, there was the question of the money, which I think I had spoken to earlier, whether how do we ensure that this money is spent in the way that it's stipulated by the Act. And I think I did give us some of the things that the parties do, one of them being submission of their plans for how they plan to do the activities for that year, and also the submission of their accounts, which are open to the Auditor General for purposes of reviewing them. Is what they presented, and those become compliance documents. The party is provisionally registered. From that date of the issuance of the certificate, they have 270 days within which to now apply and come on board to full registration. If they don't comply within those that framework, then the certificate expires and they will be forced then to again redo the process, because they have to keep themselves alive to that time frame that is provided for them. I think I did speak earlier that section 7, subsection 9 of the Political Parties CAF 7D speaks of a party cannot belong to more than one coalition. You know, and a member of a coalition cannot belong to another coalition. I think I did go through that section earlier when I was doing my presentation. And I think there was also the question of the registration. What happens when a party is deregistered? There is a process when a party is deregistered regularly. Then there is provision for those for the memberships, especially those who are in active leadership roles, to make choices of where they want to go, and that the law that says they will be seen to have moved will not apply to them, because then it's providing for them an opportunity to continue the representation process of their respective areas where they come from. There are two questions I want to tie together. One is, how do you make sure political parties are living organs, and the other one is internal regulation of political parties, which becomes a serious issue in terms of credibility for election. And this is true, because we cannot have different levels of integrity. Accountability of integrity takes, you know, it doesn't matter which position of leadership you are in. I think it's important at all levels. And that's why I said earlier that part of our desire, part of what as an office I think we need to do is two things. One is to strengthen the internal organs of the political parties to be able to manage themselves and actually discipline themselves. Because they are entities, we do not also want to be micromanaging those parties, but we need to strengthen the internal organs to function so that when there are disputes, they're able to contain them. And they are not run down by their own memberships in terms of the leadership, but they're able to control them. And the second one is we need to sensitize the public. The public who are actually the members of these political parties need to have enough information about the parties, how the parties function, how the parties are supposed to comply to the Political Parties Act, so that then the wider base of accountability of the parties is not just within the party, but also within the membership of those parties, where they come from. So that, to me, becomes a broader base for the purposes of holding our parties accountable and making them decent. Do we need to do reforms to have independent candidates regulated? Again, it's a conversation that we need to have. How will that look like? I mean, there was the proposal of whether we need to have them provided for in the political parties fund, and whether now we need to have them provided for in terms of regulation, so that they do not become, runaway members who have no regulator because they are independent candidates. Then how do we put that in terms of what the Constitution says and what the Act says so far? But I would say that in terms of the reforms that we are right now, we have not featured the issue of the independent being considered probably as one of the people to be regulated, neither the consideration for the fund. So it's something that we're looking forward to see how that is going to look like as we move on. The issues of memberships in the system, I think I did speak to this and said that the system is allowing us to be able to control how members move from one party to the other. As opposed to maybe previously, for those who came on board earlier, we didn't have a system as such, but now we have a system that actually has a very good control, that you cannot register as a member of two political parties. Neither can you include somebody in a party without their consent. Neither can a party also join another, can an individual join a party without the consent of the party. Because when you apply to be a member of a party, then the party gets notification and then have to consent for that too, for you to be a member of that party. So it works both ways. Now, in terms of integration roles, I think you know that I've mentioned earlier that IEBC and ORPP have no options. We are joined at the hip because of the processes that we have. I mentioned about the nomination rules. I talked about political party registers. I talked about political party nominations. All those processes are certified by ORPP and are submitted to the Electoral and Boundaries Commission for purposes of elections. So we have to speak to each other in more than one way for us to be able to hold the parties accountable. And even the issue of party lists, the parties have to bring their lists to the registrar for certification, and then those lists are submitted to Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission for purposes of use in elections. The registers of parties are held in the office of the Registrar of Political Parties. So how do we then subject the parties to compliance in terms of using those registers during nomination? And I did mention earlier that when parties are almost doing their nomination processes, they come to collect certified registers of that party at that point in time to say that this is the register of party A at this point in time. Now, we do monitor the processes, and probably what we may need to find out is how much do we want to provide in terms of holding parties accountable to that compliance that can go to the office of the Registrar of Political Parties in terms of holding the parties accountable, and maybe the punitive measures that can be given, maybe a punishment. Maybe those are issues that we need to look at and see how much then we can punish for issues of not complying. Whether everybody has 47 offices, 24,000 members, we have clinics for every year of all the 90 registered political parties. And all of you are members of parties. I have the status. I will also invite you as members. Can you go and do a ground check whether your party is actually compliant? I am sure at the beginning of this year, I wrote a letter to all the 90 political parties highlighting the areas where they need to comply, even as we move towards 2027. Of course, remember, we are not there to punish. We are trying to improve our democratic processes, but we also have to practice that within a framework that is constitutionally provided for. And that is why the compliance is important. Yes?
Just let him wind up. He will. Let him just wind up on the question he has. He has a question by order. You're going to get a chance after this. Just finish with this question, then he's going to get the mic. Give him the mic just after this.
Okay, so I was talking about the integration, and I said we have a lot of integration that we have in terms of registers. Remember, as parties register for themselves to be political parties, we have to confirm that those 1,000 members from every county are registered voters. And the only way we can do that is consulting the register of IEBC, which is the only custodian of registration of voters. I think we can leave it there and take the next set.
There are two more questions we didn't answer.
Yeah.
One was whether you need the political parties fund by the Honorable Batandi, and another one by Rubumbui about compliance by political parties on violence, bribery, and those. Those two have not answered.
I think I did speak to the one about the violence. Because part of this violence comes from probably the nominations of the political parties, and it springs from not being compliant to the regulations, which you have the Constitution, the political party nomination rules, which you submit. And so I think what we have not probably provided for is what type of punishment can register or political parties give to a party in terms of not complying with the rules at the point of nomination of candidates and submit to us for certification for purpose of practice. I think from what I said earlier, we gave the users we have probably in the parties that they may not be able to comply to most of these things is because we cannot provide funds that we do not have. Because what we receive is what we distribute to the parties according to the percentages provided by law in terms of the 70%, the 15%, 10%, and the 5%. That is all we can give. So whatever amount comes is what we divide to fit in the percentages as
katika vyama vyao na wanaenda na sera ambazo wameweka katika hizi vyama vyao. Otherwise saa hizi huyu atakuja atasema this time ndiko na policy hii. Mwingine akija ana policy ile. And then hatutakuwa na maendeleo ya nchi kwa sababu gani? Hatuna mfumo ambao unatuelekeza mahali popote. Asante sana bwana mwenyekiti. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I agree with you 100%, Honorable Member. I think it's a question that we need to, I'm happy that we are all seated here as members of political parties. I think the critical question is, how do we then institutionalize our political parties to the extent that they outlive faces of people, they outlive time, they become institutions that preserve democracy in themselves. And I think that's a question that we need to address. And what we are doing right now, I would say, as of the recent past, we actually require parties to submit to us a statement of ideology. It is a point. What do you want to stand for? What is it that you think you want to feel that the 92 or the 90 have not already filled in terms of the space that we have? What do you want to speak to in terms of a political? What is that compelling reason that will sustain you as a party for the next 100 years? Because unless you have a compelling reason as a party, you will not outlive the people who started the party. But if you have a compelling reason, then you will have a reason to exist even beyond the faces that you see. And probably, as I said earlier also, part of what we need to impress is the transition that we talked about. And part of me says, we wind as...
Our lunch will last 45 minutes. So we'll come back here at 3:15 most. And I would like to invite Mr. John Cox and your team. I would like to invite my friend Ethekon and his team for lunch with us and be back here by 2:15. Lunch is served in the tent right in front of us as you walk out. Welcome for lunch and God bless you all. Asanteni sana.